It has been a news-heavy edition of the Sports Cubicle here on WCPT 820. I'm your host, Mike Mercado. Thank you so much for making us a part of your day. Devin Tingle and Paul Chivari joining me, and some huge news coming out of the United Center, and it has to do with the team that plays on the ice. This comes to us from ESPN. Blackhawks fire Luke Richardson as coach after an 8-16-2 start. This is from Greg Wyshynowski over at ESPN. The league worst Chicago Blackhawks fired coach Luke Richardson on Thursday after 3 seasons. Anderson Sorensen, coach of the AHL Rockford IceHogs, was named interim head coach and will resume duties immediately. The Blackhawks have also made Mark Eden their assistant general manager, overseeing player development, the interim coach in Rockford. Sources told ESPN's Emily Kaplan that Sorensen will coach the rest of the season and will be given an opportunity to get the full-time job, as the Blackhawks think very highly of him. They are also retaining all of Richardson's staff the rest of the season as well. So you can check out the entire article over at ESPN. And I'm going to throw it to Devin in a second. I think just really interesting, if you're asking me why I think this happened, there wasn't as much development with this team as I think they were expecting, what the front office was expecting. And we saw Connor Bedard struggle to start this season. And it's one thing to be a bad team, but to be the league worst in record, we knew they weren't going to be necessarily a playoff team. We knew they were still gathering picks and whatnot. So I just think more than anything that the development was still really slow. And this is coming from a novice. But Devin, when you saw this news break, what were your initial thoughts?
It's just kind of like, you ever get deja vu, Mercado? I want to tell you something. So this team, about 3 years ago, they bring in a new head coach. A year later, they get the first overall draft pick, this once-in-a-lifetime generational talent. And then middle of this once-in-a-generation lifetime talent's career, early on, rookie year or post-rookie year, they decide to fire the head coach. Oh, wait, that just happened with the Chicago Bears here. It just kind of seems like this is the year for Chicago, guys. Pedro Grafal was fired. Matt Eberflus was fired. I mean, was David Ross fired this year? Was that last year? And the Cubs decided to give him the axe here. It's like, if you're a Chicago coach, you need to be scared right now here. But with the Blackhawks, it makes sense here. It's kind of just going like the Bears. If the team is not performing like they're supposed to, where you make the change? You're going to say, okay, Connor Bedard, you need to get you need to, get out of this sophomore slump and get your ass out of here? No. That's our once-in-a-lifetime traditional talent here. The coaching is the problem here, though. And if I remember correctly, didn't Richardson also come from the IceHogs?
I don't remember if he did, but I know in the last time they did this, they brought in the IceHogs coach to step in last time.
Okay, that might be where my confusion is here, but it's like, it just kind of seems like, once again, like Chicago teams seem to keep making the same mistakes and expecting different results, and that is the definition of insanity here.
To answer your question, Devin, he was not part of the IceHogs organization or the Blackhawks organization, so it was a hire from outside of the family. So
must have confused him with the previous interim coach.
But to your point, I think it's a frustrating sign that so many coaches have been fired, but at least they moved on from when they did. They weren't hesitating. They didn't see the results, and they moved forward from him. And I think that's a big testament to what this front office might be trying to do.
And that's what I want to mention here. It took the White Sox towards the end of the season, took the Bears more than halfway through the season. Hockey season pretty much just started here. It's like, oh, we're pulling the trigger early now, but we're going to be stuck with an interim coach the rest of this season here, because I don't think they're going to make a permanent head coach hire midseason.
Paul?
Yeah, what's funny is I thought originally that this was Jeremy Colleton, who got fired 3 years ago, but I realized, oh wait, yeah, Colleton already did get fired, so I thought it was.
We talked about that 3 years ago.
Yeah, I know, and that's the thing. It's time is a flat circle. Time is very cyclical, and once again, the Blackhawks are firing a coach. I think to you guys' points that the development was not there. It was time to move on. They're still relatively at the same winning pace that they were in the previous 2 seasons with Luke Richardson, so they wanted to pull the plug quickly on that. Better to do it sooner than later. Later, you've been seeing too, kind of in the games leading up to this, some of the frustration in Connor Bedard's style of play, just kind of taking dumb penalties, for his team. I think there was like a roughing penalty on like Patrick Kane, or a tripping penalty, even though he was kind of claiming that Kane was diving. But I think it's you start with that. I think if your star player isn't developing at the pace that you want, and look at his plus minus ratings, game by game, it's always a negative rating, or usually a negative rating, and I think that tells you something right there, that your top scorer needs to be scoring on that top line, and they're just not getting that productivity, and they had high expectations. It would be different if the Blackhawks were going into the season being like, well, we want to see what we got. They really anticipated that they would be competing for a playoff spot this year, and they're still winning at a pace of like 1 out of every 3 games.
And what's looming over everything is this CHSN stuff. So you have this product out there, and you have this superstar, and you have all these different marquee branding with the Blackhawks and the Bulls, and neither one of them is putting out a product necessarily that's great. Even if the Bulls are competing for bottom tier playoff spots, it's not what people want to see because they want to see championship number 7. And for the Blackhawks, you want to see the development of arguably one of the most talented players in the league in Connor Bedard, and you're not seeing that. So they have a lot of stuff to deal with over at the United Center. There's a lot of stuff around Madison that the Wirtz family and the Reinsdorfs have to deal with. And this is another setback for the Blackhawks now. And it's as important as what the Bears are going to go through this offseason because you're connecting it to the hip to a superstar, a young superstar in your league. We want to know your thoughts, though. The Blackhawks are moving on from their head coach, and now a new era will begin with the interim and the future head coach. We'll see what their wish list looks like this holiday season. Let us know your thoughts, though, as the Blackhawks move on. Paulie?
Bring back Q.
Get the bleep out of here, you porn stash Dundee.
He's Paul Chivari. He's Devin Tingle. I'm Mike Mercado.
Mustaches win championships.